Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, thank you for joining us, and here are tonight's main stories.
Recognition at last. After 60 years, these veterans are finally honoured for their part in atomic bombs tests. But the fight for compensation goes on.
Just put your hands over your eyes like that, dig your head into your knees, and the first thing I saw was the bones in my hand. At the same time, a heat going through my body as if somebody was throwing an electric fire or something.
Also tonight, trouble ahead. Residents say HGV drivers are flouting a new ban, keeping them off this narrow lane near Halifax and putting lives at risk.
Heavy goods continue to come. They continue, there's a huge sign on the end. The fear is that this is a walking route to school, that some child is going to be knocked down, or the backdraft of these things going very fast pulls you in.
Out of bounds, the seismic changes for Rugby League, which could see Castleford relegated without them even kicking a ball.
Actress turned stage director Gaynor Faye drops into calendar to tell us how she's following in her mum Kay Mellor's footsteps. First tonight, nuclear test veterans who claim to have been used as guinea pigs by their own country say they've taken a small step closer to ending what they see as decades of injustice.
The two former servicemen from Doncaster and Creswell in North Derbyshire believe they've been made ill after being involved in nuclear weapons testing 60 years ago. Many of their comrades have died from cancer. Others have passed on genetic abnormalities to their children.
Until today, they have never been officially recognised for their service, but today the pair finally received service medals at Doncaster's Mansion House. Michael Billington was there.
Honoured guests, good morning.
They made a sacrifice which they firmly believe continues to run through generations of their families to this day. Now, decades after they say they were exposed to radiation in atomic bomb trials in the South Pacific, two nuclear test veterans have received at least some of the recognition they've been fighting for.
Congratulations.
Honestly, I could cry. We have been waiting for it so long. The reason I'm so emotional is because it's affecting our kids. It's gone from us to them through our genes. Not necessarily all of us, but some of us have got children who's been damaged.
Gordon Coggan was in the Air Force. He was among more than 20,000 British servicemen involved in Cold War weapons tests in the 50s and 60s.
Just put your hands over your eyes like that, dig your head into your knees, and the first thing I saw was the bones in my hands and at the same time a heat going through my body. Next thing, we was literally thrown backwards with the blast. Your own country, you don't think they're going to use you as a guinea pig and not tell you about what they're using you for until it's too late, you've already done it.
That's great, thank you.
Eric Barton witnessed 6 detonations on Christmas Island. He was later diagnosed with cancer, which also claimed the lives of 5 of his closest comrades. Now he's fighting for the Ministry of Defence to release medical records he believes could prove that their illnesses were caused by the testing.
They've either lost them, they've misplaced them, which is all negligence on their part if they have all 3. They're covering up. And if they're covering up, they've got something to answer for.
The MOD says no information has been withheld and that military medical records from before, during or after the testing held in government archives can be accessed on request.
And we're the only country in the world. Our government says the British bombs were safe. Yet every other bomb in the world, at every other country, they've compensated them. Because they're saying, no, our bombs must have been wrong.
His new medal, Eric says, is simply a start, as he continues his fight to expose the truth about the physical toll he believes his service has taken.
We're going to keep fighting until we die.
Michael Billington, ITV News in Doncaster.
Well, next tonight, people living on a narrow lane plagued by crashes and near misses from lorries and speeding drivers say it's only a matter of time before someone is seriously killed or injured.
After years of pleading with council chiefs for road safety measures, residents of Jumples Crag near Halifax had hoped that relief was at hand with a ban on HGVs using the road brought in this month.
But CCTV evidence they've gathered themselves shows dozens of lorry drivers are defying the ban and the law and are continuing to make the lives of locals a misery. John Hill reports.
Welcome to Jumples Crag, where as of this month, lorries weighing more than 3.5 tonnes are banned. It says so on the signs. It must be true. But the CCTV evidence from one local resident suggests otherwise. Dozens of HGVs have been caught on camera since the ban came in, and locals like Claire and Linda say they're at their wits' end. Claire, what's it like?
Well, we are battened down by heavy goods.
He was probably within the limit, was he?
He was in the limit and he was going slow, but you've been studying this morning and seen them. Nobody does 30, nobody does 20 for sure. Main speed on here we estimate is about 50. And if anybody could tell us otherwise, I'd like them to do it.
You've got a lorry ban, 3.5 tonnes limit in place, and yet the evidence suggests otherwise, doesn't it?
The evidence is on film that the heavy goods continue to come. They continue, there's a huge sign on the end. They continue to come through it because we can cut 15 minutes off going to Bradford. So they'd rather do that rather than face the police. And actually, if the police came, we would be very, very grateful.
It was incidents like this where a lorry crashed into a tree that helped to persuade Calderdale Council to bring in a weight restriction. But it's the sheer volume of traffic that is driving people living in these old weavers' cottages to despair. What's it like when vans that are legal like this one are coming by?
It's just an absolute nightmare. One of my biggest worries is in this house here. It's a 2-year-old toddler and the baby, and she's to walk on this road with the pram and take that baby and child up to the play school. And I fear for her. We've had children climb on this wall. But when it's nice weather, you can't sit out because it's like being on M62, but it's the danger. It's dangerous.
Calderdale Council says it understands just how distressing the large volume of traffic has been for people in this area. But it says by taking the action it has done, it demonstrates just how it won't hesitate to act to use its legal powers to bring in a formal traffic ban when road users are putting the safety of others at risk. Claire and Linda hoped that the authorities and haulage firms will pay heed to these videos of lorry drivers openly flouting the weight restriction. They say more traffic calming measures are desperately needed to avert a tragedy. John Hill, ITV News, Jumples Crag, near Halifax.
Certainly is a problem, isn't it? Let's hope they get it sorted out soon. Now, still to come on calendar, our friend Gaynor Faye joins us as she prepares to continue the theatrical legacy of her mum, Kay Mellor.
And with all that moisture in the air and cooling at night time, we will be seeing some fog. How dense will it get? Join me later and I'll let you know.
We will, Des, but first, teenagers appeared in court charged with the murder of a woman in Leeds. The 60-year-old woman was found seriously injured on Prince Edward Grove in Wortley on Monday. She died later in hospital. A 17-year-old boy who can't be named because of his age appeared at Leeds Magistrates Court this afternoon. He's set to appear at Crown Court tomorrow.
It'll come as no great surprise, but it's been confirmed that October was a record breaker in terms of rainfall as Storm Babette brought serious flooding across our region. The Met Office said both South Yorkshire and Derbyshire surpassed daily rainfall records for the month, while hundreds of families remain out of their homes and businesses are left counting the cost of the damage. The Environment Agency is warning that river levels will remain high throughout the week, but are now starting to fall.
And Rishi Sunak, who marked 1 year as Prime Minister today, told MPs that government help will be made available to the most affected households and businesses, including grants and business rates relief. He praised those helping in the clear-up operations.
We recognise the heroic efforts, Mr Speaker, of local councils like his and emergency responders everywhere who have been working tirelessly in affected areas. They have our thanks, and we also stand ready to consider any requests from councils for support in their recovery efforts.
And staying with the recent weather, highways officials have started a new project this week to keep the road network moving in extreme weather events.
Yes, they're upgrading the weather stations on motorways and major A roads with the latest technology so that they can monitor conditions throughout the year to keep drivers safe. Lauren Hall reports.
From summer heat waves to winter snowstorms. And let's not forget those torrential downpours.
When we see that sort of extreme weather, we also see an impact on our roads. It's why this bit of kit behind me will soon be appearing at roadsides across the country. Now, you probably wouldn't even notice it if you were driving past, but it could make all the difference to your journey.
This is a weather station, which collects all sorts of data, from road surface conditions to temperature, visibility and wind speed. National Highways is investing nearly £15.5 million in this new technology so it can monitor motorways and major A roads, whatever the weather.
It doesn't matter whether it's hot weather, cold weather, wet weather, windy weather. This data helps us respond and keep people safe and moving on our roads.
It may become even more crucial if our weather continues to be affected by climate change. John Grant from Sheffield Hallam University warns our roads may have to cope with a lot more extreme weather here in the Callander region.
When we talk about climate change as its effect, we have this thing that climate change often makes it too hot, too cold, too windy, too wet, too dry. And all of those things can affect our roads.
The company that makes the weather stations says they can be used to monitor all sorts of extreme conditions. And eventually that data could be sent straight to the vehicle we're travelling in to make our roads even safer.
It is a game changer, and it's also future-proofing the National Highways network. And when you think where we're looking towards automated driving, this type of data will be absolutely critical in helping those vehicles to stay safe in the future.
The new weather stations will start being installed this week. Good timing as National Highways gears up for its busiest season. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Yes, the gritters will be out soon, won't they?
Well, let's hope it's a little while before they are, but yeah, I think you're right.
Now, starting off as an apprentice mechanic, baker or even apprentice accountant is seen as a way of learning on the job at the same time as bringing in a wage. But the YMCA in Doncaster is concerned that the pay has become far too low and it might be putting people off.
At least 50% of apprentices are over 25 years old, and yet many are only paid £5.28 an hour. And that means many are having to drop out or not taking up the opportunity to learn at all.
Although some employers choose to pay more, our reporter Raheem Rashid has been speaking to one apprentice anonymously who says that pursuing his dream career has turned out to be a nightmare.
Most days I wonder if I can make it to the end of my apprenticeship without just being in a crushing amount of debt. There are some days where it pushes me to the point where I do just want to give up on it and just follow my old career path, which wasn't going to get me very far, but, you know, get my bills paid.
It's not his real name, but we're calling this apprentice Jonathan. He's more than halfway into his first year course as an engineer and is paid £5.50 an hour.
There hasn't been a payday where I haven't been maxed out on my overdraft.
And we're told what he describes isn't unique.
The main reason why this is so awful is that it's really, really exploitative to apprentices. So what we're finding is employers, and not all of them, of course, but some, are using apprentices as low wage, way to keep their overheads down, and they are hiring apprentices for the first year, not investing any energy or resources into levelling them up, and then firing them after their first year, or not giving them any opportunity to study. And frankly, that's just really bad. It's bad for everyone.
Organise, which campaigns for better pay and working conditions, is calling for an increase to the national minimum apprenticeship wage, which for first years currently stands at £5.28. They're calling for it to rise to £8.24, which is 80% of the national minimum wage of £10.42 for those aged 23 and over. The Policy Exchange think tank says low apprenticeship wages don't just impact the individual, but entire industries too.
It means they're not pulling from the widest talent pool that they could do, and that harms growth, it harms the British economy, and it harms opportunity as well.
At YMCA Doncaster, one manager says some prospective apprentices have had to turn down opportunities because of the financial impact on families.
We have had on occasion where apprentices have had, or I should say potential apprentices, have had to turn down opportunities because of the impact it would have on their household.
The government says its data shows the average hourly pay for apprentices ranges from between £8.23 and £14.2p an hour, and that the apprenticeship minimum wage was increased by 9.7% this year, while the Low Pay Commission, an independent body that advises the government on minimum wage levels, says it's debating the subject in the coming weeks. But for people like Jonathan, it can be hard not to worry about wages.
You know, we say it in a joking way, but you know that pretty much all of us mean at some level that we've made the wrong life choices by putting ourselves in this position.
What a shame to be in that situation.
Yeah, I know, really, really sad, but it's good that we've been able to air that subject anyway tonight on Calendar. Now then, let's air the sport, and Chris is with us in the studio, and a big announcement today that could shape the future of rugby league.
Yeah, pretty seismic shift for rugby league in this country, Ian. From next season, there'll be no promotion to or relegation from Super League based purely on sporting performance, as it is at the moment and as it is in sports like football, as we know. Yes, participation in rugby league's top division will now be determined by a series of criteria like finance, fan base, infrastructure and past playing performance. Each club has been graded by the game's strategic partner, that's IMG, and the grading criteria and the gradings were announced this morning. I think we can see them now. As you can imagine, some clubs are happy, others less so. The Leeds Rhinos are at the top with a score of 17.49 out of 20. Now, what we're interested in is the top 12. Those are the teams that were present will play in Super League in 2025. So Huddersfield are there as well, they're 9th. Wakefield, who are actually relegated in the season just gone and will play in the Championship in 2024, would be automatically promoted to Super League the following year. They're in 11th, but take a look at 13th and Castleford. Now, if this stays the same, they'll be relegated from Super League after next season, even if they win it. Now, they've released a statement today to say their finance score is incorrect after a data error made by them. The Rugby League have said they'll review the matter. Now, it's important to stress that this isn't final. Clubs now have another 12 months to improve their score and thus shoot up or down those rankings. This structure will come into force at the start of the 2025 season.
Thanks for explaining that. It's quite complicated, isn't it?
It is complicated.
Yeah. So moving over to football then, Huddersfield Town, they didn't have such a good night last night.
No, it wasn't a good night, that's to say the least, Lara. Yes, Town owner Kevin Nagle took to social media last night to apologise to fans over what he described as an unacceptable performance against Cardiff. Elsewhere, Barnsley closed the gap on the automatic promotion places in League One, and Mansfield remain unbeaten for the season. Here's the best of the action.
If the first goal Huddersfield conceded last night could be deemed a little unlucky, the ball deflecting in off Town defender Matty Pearson, well, the next two were of their own doing. Defenders failing to pick up their men at corners and being punished. There was nothing Lee Nichols in the Town goal could do about the fourth, but the 4-0 scoreline led to recriminations from the stands and the boardroom. Barnsley were back in their familiar red last night after being forced to wear black at the weekend when their away kit was burned in a team bus fire. Well, the performance was smoking. 3 goals against Shrewsbury and now 2 points off the League One automatic promotion spots. Mansfield's form in League Two is looking ominous for the rest of the division. They made it consecutive 4-1 away wins last night at Harrogate. The second was a case of if you don't succeed first time, then try and try again. Lucas Akins with that one and the third before half-time. Harrogate's fans might have been better off spending the night at Betty's, especially when George Maris put the icing on the cake, making it 4-0. Levi Sutton pulled one back with this deflected effort, but it was little consolation. The honeymoon period's over for Bradford's interim boss Kevin McDonald. Despite Alex Gilead firing in this equaliser, the MK Dons proved too hot to handle, especially this free kick from former Huddersfield man Jack Payne. The less said about the defending for the fourth in a 4-1 defeat, the better. And former Leeds player Matt Smith was Doncaster's nemesis. Their defence simply couldn't handle the 6'5" striker. He scored 2 in the first half with his head and completed his hat-trick in the second with a simple left-footed finish. 3-0, the final score.
All that talk of Betty's, I'm ready for my tea now. Nice fat rascal.
Oh yeah, I love one of those.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
And thanks to you for being with us too. The ITV Evening News continues here with Mary Nightingale at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening. Coming up on the programme, another devastating blow for civilians trapped in Gaza as what little aid they have is set to run out. The UN has warned that its dwindling fuel levels will leave them unable to provide life-saving support. Here, a police officer described as cruel and sadistic is jailed for sexually abusing hundreds of girls as young as 10. Slipping through the cracks, the young carers working 50-hour weeks to support sick family members. And the rocket man out of retirement, Tim Peake's journey to lead the UK's first independent space mission. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Thank you, Mary. We certainly will. Now, the TV world was stunned when lead screenwriter Kay Mellor died suddenly in May last year. Famous for creating hits like Band of Gold, Fat Friends and The Syndicate, she had the ability to place ordinary characters in extraordinary situations.
She certainly did. One of the last things that Kay did before she died was to write a stage version of The Syndicate. It tells the story of 5 supermarket colleagues who win the lottery and then the impact that has on their lives.
Well, Kay's daughter, the actress Gaynor Faye, is going to make her stage directing debut overseeing the play, which comes to Yorkshire in the new year. And we spoke to Gaynor earlier and asked her, was she excited?
I know, I'm so joyous to bring this, The Syndicate to Leeds, to the Grand Theatre. It's going to have its world premiere again after Band of Gold and Fat Friends the Musical. You know, my mum loved Leeds, it's her hometown, and we're going to bring it back to Leeds.
It's great that you're doing this for your mum in a way, isn't it? You're doing it for yourself as well, of course, but for your mum, to remember your mum, because this is work that she started and you want to carry on.
Absolutely. She wrote the Syndicate play and she was so excited about it because, you know, obviously condensing the first series down from 6 episodes into a stage play is a massive feat in itself. So, yeah, and she's done an amazing job. It's so good. It's funny, it's sad, it's poignant, you know, it does everything. And, yeah, just supporting regional theatre. Supporting our theatres. Let's get back in the theatre in Leeds, her hometown, and it's her last play. So I'm thrilled to be bringing it. You know, sad but thrilled to be carrying on her legacy.
And this is the first time that you've directed, of course, on stage. So how are you feeling about that?
Scared but excited. You know, it's such an honour to be able to do it, and I know her vision. You know, we used to write together. We did a workshop of this a couple of years ago, and so she was very clear about what she wanted, and then we worked on the script afterwards. So, you know, it's all there, it's all in the stage directions, and I know how she would do it. So I've got that on my side.
I was going to say to you, you know, do you feel like you've got your mum in the sort of back of your head, sort of telling you what you need to do if there's a little problem crops up?
All the time, all the time she's talking to me, which is wonderful. You know, we all say, what would Kay do? What would Mum say? You know, and that will always carry on. But you know what she really wants to do is just give back to Leeds, and I'd love Leeds to come out and support her because, you know, this was her hometown and she loved the people of Leeds. So we're going to be here, we're going to be Bradford, Sheffield, we're doing all the Yorkshire, Hull, you know, and it'd been lovely just to come out and support.
And of course, we know your mum was such a huge figure in the world of television in this part of the world, nationally as well, of course. We all miss her, and I mean, you must just miss her tremendously.
I miss her every second of the day, you know, and that's why I want to do things like this. So we're carrying on with Roland. I'm carrying on with Roland and my sister and all our staff.
That's the production company.
Yeah, our production company just down the road, so I'm often down there. Well, I'm down there a lot. And yeah, just keep her legacy going. You know, she was an incredible woman. So I'm just going to keep going as much as I can.
And I know the great thing about your mum was, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, she had the common touch, didn't she? She knew about real people and real characters that we could all relate to.
Absolutely. It was all about real people. She never wrote anything for critical acclaim. She wrote it for the people. She was a real people person, you know, and she really wanted, like, everyone to have access to the theatre. So come out, have a good night out. I mean, it's a really, really good play, and it's a great one to bring your mates along to.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you all the very best of luck with it, Gaynor. Thanks
Thank
ever
you.
so much for coming in to see us at Calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what a lovely interview. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And this play, of course, will be for the people of Yorkshire, won't it?
It certainly will, so you'll have to check it out.
Here's Des Coleman now with the weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Well, it's always great news to bring you that some of us enjoyed the day with a little bit more wind weight of brightness coming through. Having said that, as we do head into the overnight story, a lot of low cloud mist and murk is going to start to appear. Now, I'm going to show you the Atlantic chart, and you can actually see the setup that we've got, not just for today, but as we head towards the early part of next month. We've got a fair amount of low pressure systems dotted around, and they are continuing to throw in pulses of rain. So if you do live anywhere where the ground is fairly saturated, we're not completely out of the woods. Having said that, winds tend to come up from the south, so temperatures should be where they should be for the time of year, around 14 degrees. Heading into the overnight story to the far north and east of our patch, again that low cloud is there. Then we see a little bit more in the way of clear skies, but then towards the small hours, towards the southwest, we see a system trying to bring in rain for tomorrow morning. Now, temperatures dipping down to around 8 degrees. Under those clear skies, naturally, it is going to feel a little bit chillier, but also with those clear skies, gives us a chance to see the meteor showers that will pass over us tonight, fragments of which belong to Halley's Comet. So yes, when we do wake up tomorrow morning, it is cloudy, bit of a murky start, grey overcast, and then we see that band of showers, heavy, pushing through, clearing the east coast, leaving behind some brighter intervals once we get to the very back of the day to the further southern parts of our patch. Temperatures maxing out at around 12 degrees, 54 degrees Fahrenheit, but you'll notice those heavy showers, possibly thundery, and like I say, giving us fairly sharp pulses of rain. I'll leave you with the summary.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
That's livened us up.
It certainly has. You know, Des was talking about Halley's Comet. Do you remember Halley's Comet when we were back at primary school?
Yes, yeah, lessons of many years ago, Lara.
A long time ago. Thanks for watching. I'm back at 10:30 and Mary Nightingale is next.
Good night.